Experience a membership that backs your business journey with American Express Business Platinum. Earn 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy a welcome offer of 200,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
This episode is brought to you by Alexa Plus. Say hello to Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do more for you. Need tickets to that last-minute show? Craving your favorite restaurant? Sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. Alexa learns your preferences to create a personalized experience. And now, Alexa Plus is free with Prime on your Amazon devices, like Echo and Fire TV. Learn more at amazon.com/Alexa Plus.
Your favorite local grocery stores like Kroger, Ralph's, Fred Meyer, and more are now delivering on Uber Eats. Get 40% off your order of fresh, quality ingredients. Whether you just got home to an empty fridge or suddenly got a craving to whip up something new, you can get everything you need delivered in as little as 25 minutes. Get 40% off your order with code Kroger2026. Plus, members get $0 delivery fees. Order now on Uber Eats. Orders of $30 or more save up to $25. Ends 4/30/26. See app for details.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
All right. Hey there, Duke fans. Episode 815 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Officially the last episode of the season. I'm Jason Evans. I'm here with Donald Wine. It's 9:30 on Sunday, the 29th of March. Shitty day. Really, really shitty day. We're going to try and talk you all the way through it. A brutal. Can I just keep saying that, Donald? Brutal loss.
Let me jump in.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Go.
Brutal. I'm stunned. Being there, it hurts. I know everybody out there is hurting. Jason and I are going to try and feel our way through this, but
dude, I wish I didn't care this much.
Yeah, it's funny. I was kind of thinking to myself, I drove to the arena and so I had like a nice little 10-minute drive home. I could have taken the metro. I didn't want to deal with people. And I just was thinking like, man, if we didn't care, this would be much easier. But I think it's the fact that we all do care so much that this is so painful.
Let me do something here. I wrote some things down. And I want to be clear. I want to start by saying, and this is before we get to headlines or anything like that. We'll get to all that other stuff in a minute. But I just want to, I had some thoughts, and so I wanted to relay them. I want to start by saying, I know that folks are mad and angry and frustrated. I am too. This sucks. It feels, you want to be like, this is inexcusable. This was stupid. We'll get into a million things about the end game and all the other kind of stuff. I know folks are questioning John Shire and some of the decisions made by him and the team. I am painfully, brutally aware that in the past year, Donald, oh God, I can't believe it. In the past year, Duke has lost exactly 4 games, and we had 14 plus point leads in every damn one of them. We will never, I think as Duke fans, we will never feel safe or comfortable ever again.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to remind everyone of a few things. First of all, we've said this before, but Duke doesn't always blow it down the stretch. This season alone, Florida, Michigan State, Florida State twice, Virginia. Those were 1-point games in the final 3 minutes, and Duke won every one of them.
Michigan, St. John's.
I forgot. Michigan as well. 1-point game in the final 3 minutes, and they won them. We even trailed in the final minutes of some of those and pulled them out. Just 2 days ago, Donald, 2 days ago, we had a game against St. John's where Isaiah Evans takes a step back three with less than 4 minutes to go to give Duke the lead.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about? We found a way to win. We don't always blow the game. So I've seen a lot of stuff online. We've gotten a lot of emails, people who are like, they're idiots out there calling for Jon Scheyer's head. Have you lost your ever loving mind? But I also want to point out this. Unlike the Houston game a year ago and some of these other losses that have been really tough to take, I don't think this Duke team didn't totally fold down the stretch. In the final 2 minutes, Patrick Gungba made a big free throw. He missed the other one, but he made a big free throw. Cameron Boozer made two tough baskets in the paint, including like in the final minute and a half. We got a major stop at one point. They weren't just coming down and scoring at will on us every time. We made some plays. We just didn't quite make enough. And then we fell victim to a ridiculous, to call it a miracle doesn't even do it justice. I'm not even talking about the shot. I'm talking about the pass. And then, it took an insane confluence of stuff for Duke to lose. And I want to remind everyone, this Duke team just went 35-3 on the season. We won the ACC regular and tournament championships for back-to-back seasons. This Duke team did things. We have to go back. Don, we went back decades to find comparisons for this Duke team. It was the first time in Duke basketball history that Duke teams won 35 games in consecutive seasons in back-to-back years. Folks, how greedy are you? Are you really going to lament a lost season or something like that in a year where we won 35 games and hung multiple banners? If winning a national championship is the only thing that matters to you, if the final destination is all you care about, then you're missing a hell of a ride along the way. There are great, amazing, once-in-a-generation teams that fail to win it all. Are you really going to say that you didn't love those seasons? It happens. And we keep coming back, Donald. We keep coming back for hope that the next year will be different. And you know what? Sometimes, someday in the future, it will be different. And we will enjoy it all the more because we know it could have ended like this or like last year instead.
I think part of the reason why it hurts so much is, one, it's UConn. For me, I went back to San Antonio 2004. That was my final game in college. I hate UConn. I said it when we did the bracket selection. I was like, I hate that this bracket is going to include Spartans and Huskies in DC, and we would have to go through one of them. I just didn't. I didn't like. Of course, after the game, they presented the reasons why I don't like being around UConn fans. But I also think it hurts because, as you mentioned, all of them have been close, right? We're not being blown out. The last time we got blown out of the gym was 3 years ago. Every game that we've lost has been those heartbreakers.
Yeah, we've talked about this, man. Yeah. It's been incredible.
It's incredible on one hand, but also you figure out, you try to sit there and look at your heart and say, I'm sorry, man. I didn't want to put you through this yet again. But here we are. And I think that's what, hopefully you guys all understand, that our hearts are strong. Our hearts will rebound. In a couple of days, we will be ready to be heard again. But in the immediate aftermath, a couple hours after that, it stinks. And it stings for me, myself being in the building 2 years in a row when that happens. I hate it. I know people who were there hate it. I know people who watched it at home hate it just the same. But this one is going to sting. And because of who it was against, at least for me, it's going to take a minute to recover from.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm going to get to the headlines. I've read everything folks have sent us so far. We've gotten a lot. It's only been a couple hours since the game ended. Obviously, we've gotten a ton. So many of the emails are people thanking Donald, you and I, saying that they're sad there won't be more podcasts about this year's team, and how much they appreciate what we do. Folks, we appreciate what all of you do as well. I know that for the most part, what you do is, stick earbuds in your ear and listen to the two of us prattle on and on. But we do really, really appreciate it. We love the correspondence we get from everybody. Especially at a time like this, we can't respond to everything. A number of folks have sent us long emails of thoughts on the season and the such. Like I said, we read every damn one of them because it's great to interact with you people. And it's a pleasure, it's a treat that we get to have this platform, Donald. So let me go ahead and give some of the headlines. Frankly, there are no offense, none of the headlines are like great.
And they shouldn't be. I'm not.
Exactly.
We're not passing judgment here.
Yeah. So I'll start with Chris Emmershine. His headline's short and sweet. Sunday, Bloody Sunday. It's worth noting we're not going to talk about it extensively, but in addition to the Duke men, the Duke women lost on this Sunday in brutal fashion in a game where they were right in there. They were leading UCLA by double digits.
10-point lead. Yeah.
A great UCLA team that was just too damn big for them. But anyway, we're not going to get into that game. But Chris Emmershine appropriately points out that this is, for Duke fans, a Sunday, Bloody Sunday. John Grantland, who writes to us after every game and is just as faithful as it comes in terms of headline writers, he gave us Huskies take the final bite out of Duke's season, and it hurts. True words, John. Definitely. Jared Strauss, magical ride ends with black eye. He's referring to, of course, what happened to Cameron Boozer in this game. We'll be talking more about that later on. Jim Baumgartner. Jim knows my thing about turnovers, 12 turnovers. Jim Baumgartner pointed out 13th turnover takes traumatic toll as perplexing pass propels Huskies to Final Four. Good alliteration there, Jim. Kind of hate it, but good alliteration. And then John Barnhill gave us a little bit, kind of like a poem sort of thing. I'll read this to you now. Rockin' early, hurly-burly, surely, 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 no! And now I'm surly, and I hate Hurley. Nice job, John.
Sounds about
That's
right.
what I got for headlines, Donald.
First of all, thank you everybody who submitted headlines. I got to read a few of them. Jason, a lot of the ones that you picked were ones that were on my list, but it's the people that email us after a gut puncher like this that you almost want to ensure that we read through them, and we obviously will. They may not make the show, but we're going to go through every single one of them because, again, we can feel the pain in some of these headlines as well. And the joy when we have big wins, we can feel it in there, and it's a big part of our show, and that's why we started doing it a few years back, because we want that particular kind of feedback, and we just want to hear from you what you thought of the game. So thank you for everybody who submitted the headlines tonight and throughout the season.
All right, let's get to the good, because there was definitely some good in this game, especially in the first half, and especially the Boozer brothers, Cameron and Caden, in the first half. They were outscoring UConn until like the final minute, the final 30 seconds or so. Mm-hmm. At the half, the score was UConn 29, Cameron and Caden Boozer 27. Cam had 14 points. Caden had 13 points. Caden was just getting downhill and getting in the lane, had some really athletic, really creative finishes and such. I thought both of them were just outstanding in the first half, especially. And then the other thing about the first half that I wanted to mention was our defense. In the final 10 minutes of the first half, our defense was outrageous. UConn looked like it had no idea what it could do. The shot clock was almost always dwindling down. We had a couple shot clock violations on them. They were only shots they could get were contested, bad shots. UConn could not hit anything from outside. Duke's defense in the first half and Duke's offense, frankly, in the first half was just so completely on point. It was, look, we outscored them 44-29 in the first half. Like, extrapolate that, and it's an 88-point game, which is a big offensive output, and a 58-point game for UConn, which is a very poor offensive output. Everything that happened in the first half was great by Duke. UConn just 1 of 11 on three-pointers in the first half. They hit just 35% of their shots overall. And Duke, by the way, hit 5 of 11 three-pointers. We were 45% from three in the first half. That my biggest good is like everything that happened in that first half of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I loved our intensity in the first half. I think I was texting you and Scott about this. I told other people about this. Like, the intensity that we had, especially during that 14-0 run towards the end of the first half, I thought we really had great intensity, and that's what was kind of rocking UConn. I mean, Terrace Reed was getting his points, but no one else was. No one was making any shots. For most of the game, UConn had made 1 3 until like maybe with 3 minutes left. They were 1 for 12 or something like that. There's something ridiculous. They had 5%.
No, they were like 1 for 16, I think it was.
Yeah. I mean, they really.
On the other hand, Donald, they were due.
Well, they
were gonna do.
Yeah, like I said, the intensity that we had is what led to a lot of their missed buckets, and even with Terrace Reed, what we figured out once he started trying to go at our bigs one by one, right? He got Malik into a foul, and then he did Pat, and then he did Cam. Then they started double teaming him at the very last second, and that's where Cam got a couple of those blocks from behind. Yeah. And again, once they realized that, they took out Terrace Reed, they tried to go small, and that's when we really started to go to work. I mean, look, Cam with 27 points, 8 rebounds, 5 of them on the offensive glass, 4 assists and 2 blocks. Caden Boozer with 15 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. That's a 10-5-5. I thought that both of them together were really making it where UConn had to just search for answers. If you noticed, every TV timeout, I mean, I had noticed obviously in the building, but every TV timeout, Dan Hurley was yelling at a referee about something. And what they were saying was, look, your guy is, not getting fouled on any of these possessions. They're playing good defense. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Cam Boozer, I know we'll talk about it extensively, is getting just pounded, just absolutely beat to death in that. And he still was solid. He still was able to get up there and do so much to carry this team, just like he's done all year. He was so consistent. The word around the building was that, man, that guy is just granite. Like, he just won't, you just can't move him. And once he gets to a spot, he figures it out. And he's so smart in figuring out how to get to a spot so that the only thing you can do is just watch him go up and calmly lay it off the glass and score 2 points.
Let's get a little more good stuff. I thought Dame Sarr had a great first half. When Dame hits threes, we're kind of a nightmare for teams. He had 8 points in the first half, 2 of 3 on his threes. And Dame played really strong D on the UConn perimeter players. He was mostly matched up either on Braylon Mullins or Silas Damari. Those two guys, and both those guys struggled massively when he was covering them. I thought he showed the kind of defense that he just shut the water off on both of those guys. And then the other guy I want to talk about, in terms of not just the first half, but the whole game, was Nick Hemenia, who had a couple really, really strong stretches. Nick really showed he's going to be super impactful next season. I guarantee he's going to work on some things in the offseason, and he's going to have to take on a little bit larger role. And I think he's going to do outstanding at it. Nick had 7 points in this game, kept on making heady plays. Like, he plays super, super smart. And I thought it was very telling that John Shire had Hemenia in the game a lot when the game got tight down the stretch. Nick was in that game a ton. And he played great defense in this game. Nick, by the way, spent a lot of time a lot of time guarding Alex Karaban. Like Duke did something really, really interesting on defense. I think it was probably part of wanting to make sure that Cameron Boozer wouldn't get in foul trouble. But Cam was like guarding one of their wings, one of their guards, like almost like their shooting guard kind of sort of thing. They would sort of the three guards in the game, the one that was the sort of the least dangerous, Cam would guard that guy, and we were putting Nick on Alex Karaban, was their power forward. Now, I think part of it is that Karaban isn't a guy who's going to go in the post, so there was no reason for Cam. You don't want Cam to be out there on the perimeter trying to guard him too much. But the other reason was I think Nick was a great matchup with an outstanding player like Alex Karaban. And Karaban he hit one 3-pointer late. Props to him, but he had a terrible game other than that. And a lot of that was due to Nick Hemenia playing great defense on him.
I was saying that you saw quite a bit where we had our air quotes small lineup and Nick was at the 4. And it was funny because it was like Nick at the 4, Malik at the 5, and as you mentioned, Cam was at the 3 when he was in there. And so I really like the fact that he was guarding guards, he was guarding big men. He even had I think 1 or 2 plays where he jostled with Terrace Reed and tried to just be be in the bonnet, right? I like the fact that he was able to kind of guard so many different spots, and he was being very versatile. And then on the other end, Jason, like he had a crucial 3. He made some plays on offense, and again, just the wherewithal to be hustle and, like you said, make those heads up plays was something that improved consistently throughout the year. And if you think about the last 10 games for him, we saw some real dynamite play from Nick Hemenia, and this game was no exception.
Yeah, in the second half, Nick was our second leading scorer. Like our second half scoring was basically Cameron Boozer, Nick Hemenia, and then like, anybody else got something for me? Okay. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dissect the final play. We're going to talk about that, and we'll get into, more of things that I don't want to call it things to work on because there's not more season for us to work on it, but we got to talk about the things that didn't go right in this game. We'll have all that for you in just a moment.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Gary the Snake. And your last name? The Snake.
Dream Team. Get new habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG. And right now you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
Nothing brings people together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, people aren't just watching, they're cheering together. This winter, everyone is all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
All right, we are back from the break, and we're going to get into some things that didn't go very well. I'll start with this. It was an epic meltdown, one of the worst in NCAA history. UConn just kept chopping away at that lead. Good on them for continuing to fight and never giving up. And it just felt like in the second half, John Shire could not find a combination that felt comfortable. Other than Cam trying to play bully ball, and good on him. Man, I'm so bummed that I'm not going to get to watch Cameron Boozer in a college uniform anymore. I mean, he hasn't declared yet, but I think it's a foregone conclusion. I'm bummed that I'm not going to get to watch that incredible player anymore. But we couldn't find anything other than Cam in the second half that really worked for us at all.
It was interesting. In the second half, we went away from a lot of the things that we were doing well in the first half. I thought the intensity to start the second half wasn't there. And that's kind of where UConn made a little bit of a run. They cut into that lead. And it just felt like, not that we were out of sorts. It wasn't like we were throwing the ball away in a huge spurt like we kind of did in the 12-0 run that St. John's had.
Right.
It was just a combination of we weren't making shots. We weren't getting those 50-50 balls. We weren't, executing with the sharpness that we had. And we just didn't have the intensity that we had throughout much of the first half. I thought that was the first thing that was missing. I look also at the stats. It is weird. Like we only took 4 threes. We only hit one of them. In the second
I was going
half.
to talk about that. Yeah.
It was just interesting how that transpired, and we were going inside, and we were trying to go inside. And the funny thing is, if you look at 10 for 19, that's not bad. Like for the second half field goals, we were going inside. It was working. But like you said, it was only Cam that it was working for. We took a lot of jumpers outside the lane that went in, but it was like something where we sort of abandoned what got us to this point. Not in a huge way, but enough for, again, UConn to just steadily creep back into the game and make it something where we were giving them hope later on in the second half and later on in the game. It's hard to explain. I don't want to watch this game again to really break it down, but that's kind of what you would need to do to really break this thing down. But yeah, it was just a comedy of errors that led to them steadily creeping back into the game and giving them a chance.
Well, look, Duke has 13 turnovers in this game. 8 of them came in the second half. We only had 10 offensive rebounds in this game. Only 3 of them came in the second half. You mentioned Duke had 19 field goal attempts in the second half. UConn had 30. Mm-hmm. We were outshot in terms of field goal attempts, 30-19 in a half. 11 more field goal attempts would be a lot for a game. They had 11 more than us in a half. Donald, you have to hit like 65+% from the field or hit a ton of 3-pointers to survive if you're getting outshot that much. If they are getting that many more cracks at the bucket than you are. Either that or you have to shoot a metric, just a ton of free throws. And, Duke did not. UConn shot more free throws shot 3 more free throws than we did in the second half. The refs were going to make sure that Duke didn't get a huge free throw advantage in this game. Believe me. But
Jason, related to that though, I think another thing that, again, where the intensity wasn't there, it was also kind of taken away from us. And I know we'll expand a little bit upon it, but having 6 fouls in the first 5 minutes of the second half really messed with our mojo. I could see how guys were then trying to figure out, and it's funny, before the game we were joking that Roger Ayers has won the rest, and I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. We know this is going to get tight at a certain point. That's going to be inopportune for us. It was that first 6-7 minutes of the second half where they were calling everything. I mean, we had one possession. I think we had 3 fouls in the same possession. And because of that, we couldn't get any consistency. We couldn't get any rhythm. And it felt like on defense, we had to kind of let Terrace Reed and other guys in the lane do their thing because we didn't want to get fouls called on us. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I think that contributed also to the lessening of the intensity that we saw in the first half.
Yeah, so I want to bring up 2 things that, expand on 2 things you mentioned there. First is Terrace Reed. And by the way, huge props to him. Amazing game. One of the best games of his career. One of the best games that we've ever seen from a player, to knock the Blue Devils out of the tournament. But I want to be clear. He was, especially early on, he was getting away with walks, hops, skips, and jumps, spending more than 3 seconds in the lane. At one point, after like the first 8 minutes of the game, he was on like 50-point pace in this contest. And frankly, the refs were doing him a lot of favors. I'm going to go ahead and say, look, I want to be clear. You and I always say this. I'm not blaming the loss on the refs. Never, never, never. That is not how we play. But they sucked in a season where Cameron Boozer got scratched on his arm so bad that you could see it for weeks, where he had his jersey torn, so the K had come off. We can now add a black eye to the list of things that happened to Cameron Boozer without a foul being called.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key thing here. It's not that people are mashing Cam and leaving physical wounds on his body. It's that it happens on his body and on his uniform. It's that it happens and no foul gets called. It is unbelievable. Nick Homenia had it late in the game. I want to say with like 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes left in the game. Homenia went up for a shot. And he got sandwiched between two UConn players. To me, it wasn't even debatable if it was a foul. It wasn't even like, oh, they didn't call anything. The refs repeatedly allowed Duke players to be hammered, pounded, and they just wouldn't call anything. Now, in fairness, I think they didn't call it a ton at the other end. It's like, yeah, they were letting everybody play, but it especially with Terrace Reed, who is so damn big, it favors him. If there are no fouls being called, that's to the advantage of Terrace Reed. That's the advantage of the team that is a little bit older and a little bit stronger, which is going to be the case with a UConn team full of, other than Braylon Mullins, it's full of juniors and seniors, guys who've been around college basketball for a long, long time. But I thought the refs were atrocious in this contest. Duke, like Cameron Boozer only took, I think it was 8 free throws on the game. How is that even possible, given the way he was going inside? It makes no sense to me. I hope none of these refs advance to ref in the Final Four. I don't know how they could. If you go back and look at this game, they missed so many damn fouls. It's ridiculous.
You know damn well that Roger Ayers is going to be refereeing in the Final Four. That's just what it is. And again, when you see his name,
he has naked pictures of someone. That's the only explanation is that Roger Ayers has naked pictures of someone, and that person is protecting him. He's abysmal.
Yeah, I mean. But he's everywhere. And how many games did he call for us this year, right? Where there was, again, tight whistles in certain spots of the game that you felt really changed the momentum of what was happening. And I also just think, again, I want to stress the fact that Cam Boozer did what he did. And like you said, he still has the scars from the NC State game.
Yeah.
The jersey's probably going to be hanging in Cameron, the ripped one. Someone's going to put that in the Hall of Honor or something. And then this night, now he's in the press conference and he can't even cry because he has a black eye that's swollen his eye nearly shut. And it was again on an elbow that wasn't called or reviewed. And so, refs miss calls. They missed a lot of calls in this game, but he is a visual reminder of what happens when you let the game get like that.
All right, I'm going to talk about a few individual players. I hate to do this. It's not fun, but you and I, we sing their praises when they succeed, and when they don't, we have to say it like it is. Isaiah Evans, in a season where he has consistently elevated his game, his season ends not with a bang, but with a whimper. He scores just 7 points, 1 of 4 on 3-pointers. I mean, Slim was literally, over the past 6 weeks, Slim's been averaging like 9 3-pointers a game. Only gets off 4 in this game. took just 6 total shots. Like I've been talking, if you try and cut Slim off from going to from getting his threes, he'll go to the basket on you. Not in this game, he didn't. He takes 6, like I said, 6 total shots. Only the Texas Tech game where we now know he was sick. That's the only game all year where he took this few shots. I also want to talk about Malik Brown. Malik ends his career with 0 points, 5 rebounds, 4 of them in the first half, just 1 rebound in the second half. No blocks, no steals. I saw a couple little deflections, but frankly, his post defense on Terrace Reed was pretty damn ineffective pretty much the entire game. Now, Malik is not built to play Reed that well, but that's the reality. And I hate to say it because I'm sure that he was feeling his foot and it wasn't feeling good, but Caleb Foster, 3 turnovers, 0 of 1 from the field, didn't really do anything. The injuries, and I think, by the way, Donald, that Caleb and Pat also, didn't do a lot. He had a couple really nice passes in the first half and such, but I think both those guys were clear. This whole Duke team lost something when those guys got hurt late in the season. They should be praised. They should, by they I mean the entire team and Pat and Caleb for coming back. They should be praised for winning an ACC tournament title, for making the Final 8, the Great 8, the Elite 8, whatever you want to call it, under the circumstances that happened. But the reality is that Caleb and Pat, both of them, Caleb especially, just was not very good in this game. I'm sure it was the foot, but that's the truth.
Yeah, I think I was going to say it's not necessarily a bad, but like they weren't as effective today. And that's kind of the up and down that you get sometimes. Like that game the other day was so magical, right? Like it's hard to replicate that. And but you almost are like, hey, I hate to have to ask you to do this, but that magic you had on Friday, can you do that again? Because I really need it to get to the Final Four, and it just wasn't there. And that, I think in the case of at least Caleb and Pat, like I rather commend them for trying to give it a go. Where once again they were both. I mean, Caleb was on the availability report as questionable until an hour before the game, just like he was the day before. So it's clear that he's laboring. It's clear that he tried to give it a go, and he just didn't have the same magic that he had on Friday. That part is life. That part is basketball. The fact that he came back was a boost. You could feel it in the crowd that there was. I will say there were times that he was brought in specifically to kind of bring the ball up and get it across half court and establish something about running the offense, and he was able to do that. But yeah, it just wasn't the same magic that he had on Friday, and that's it's clearly unfair for him, but that's what it was.
All right. Are you cool with us getting to the final play and talking about that for a little bit?
As long as we can before I start getting angry, but sure. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, I mean, the play is total shades of the UVA play against Furman, where Kihei Clark tosses the ball in the air and Furman hits a miracle 3 to win it. It's almost the exact same play. I know a lot of people out there are saying, guys, just hold on to it and shoot your free throws. There's no reason to try and pass it. And I don't entirely disagree with that, but I will say this to sort of mitigate that criticism. I want to remind everyone that UConn had only been called for 7 fouls at that point, so Duke was in the 1-and-1. By the way, I want to point out the ridiculous absurdity of the fact that Duke wasn't in the double bonus at that point, that we were only barely in the 1-and-1. It shows you the refs were clearly blind and not watching this damn game. But the reality of the circumstances was Duke was up 2, but we were in the 1-and-1. And I think that, I don't want to say the team was scared or anything like that, but hey, running a little bit of extra time before we shoot those free throws, I think that was the theory in that moment. And it's worth noting, this is going to seem silly to say, but if Caden's ball doesn't get tipped, he had both Pat and Isaiah down the floor ahead of him with no one from UConn there. The UConn guys rushed forward to attack Caden. If Caden's ball doesn't get tipped, then either Pat or Isaiah, I think probably it would have been Pat, are getting, they might have been able to just run out the clock completely, but at the very bare minimum, they're running a couple more seconds and they are taking an uncontested dunk to give Duke a 4-point lead with 5 seconds, 4 seconds left, something like that. And Donald, if that's the case, if Caden's pass doesn't get tipped, you and I are sitting right here, right now, talking about what a heady play it was by him. Hey, Caden Boozer is so smart. He didn't want to risk free throws. He didn't want to risk a chance we'd miss them. He tossed it ahead so that guys who were wide open were able to end the game for us. What a smart play that was by Caden Boozer. Instead, because the ball got tipped, we're saying something complete opposite. I think that's not fair to Caden. Because I'm serious. Don't you agree? If the pass is completed, we're talking about what a heady play it was by Caden?
It happened against Michigan, right? And if you think about the last play against Michigan, it ended with a dunk that didn't count. It should have counted because it was before time expired. But we ran the clock out by getting the ball, and instead of holding the ball and getting fouled, we made another pass, and it ended up being where that person could find a streaking Isaiah Evans for a dunk. And so I think they said, it's the same play. We trust getting the ball to Pat and then maybe even getting it from there to Isaiah. You're either getting the ball to Isaiah, who's our best free throw shooter. Like you said, you're either getting a dunk, or even if you turn the ball around down there's 1 second left on the clock and they're heaving it the length of the court, which is, obviously a low percentage shot. And I think also, I will say this. I saw Matt Giles, who's one of the reporters that does a lot of great stuff. He posted the video of Caden Boozer in the locker room, obviously a visibly emotional Caden Boozer, and he took full responsibility. He owned up to it and said, I cost our guys a season, and I made a mistake, and he just wished he had an opportunity to do it again, but he knows that play cost the season. And I give him grace.
Really quick. In that one circumstance, but on the other hand, there were a million plays that preceded it. That I hate blaming it on one guy and one play.
That was my point. My grace for him is he's the reason why we were in this position in the first place.
Hell yeah!
We just talked about how great a game he had, how great 3 weeks, a great March he had. We talked early in the season. I said somebody in this team that isn't playing much has to step up for this team to go deep in March. That was Caden Boozer. He stepped up. Nick Hamidian, to a lesser degree, stepped up. But it was really Caden Boozer stepping into the lineup, stepping into that leadership role. He did 99 great things. He made one mistake, right? If you think about it in that kind of sense. And that is the one that everyone's going to talk about. And it's unfortunate, especially for him, because he doesn't deserve to be thought of as just the guy who threw the ball away. He is much more than that. And, hopefully I think he's going to come back next year and atone for that, right? We're going to see a guy who's going to say, no, you're not going to remember me for that. No more, right? You could take a whole summer to deal with that, but next summer or this time next year, you're going to be thinking about me in some other way. And so I just want to give him grace to the fact that he didn't have to own up to that, but he did. In the heat of the moment, he owned up to it and said, that was my mistake, and I cost my team the season. But no, Caden Boozer, you did not cost this team the season. Even if with that tip, you still had to get Braylon Mullins, who hit 1-3, a 35-footer. That, again, unfortunately,
logo. Dude, he's on the logo. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we talk about the magic of March. And we talk about the chaos of March, and you hope that it happens to every team but yours. We were not that lucky tonight.
I do want to really quick, I wonder a little bit about the lineup that John put out there on the final play. I don't know why Dame Sarr was in the game to inbound the ball there. It doesn't really make sense because first of all, he's a little bit of a shaky ball handler. We've seen that over the course of the whole year. It's an important thing for him to work on in the offseason. Dame is not a great free throw shooter. He's been one of the most inconsistent free throw shooters on the Duke team. I sort of wonder why he was out. Why I guess I don't know. Maybe Caleb's foot was hurting so bad that Caleb couldn't do it, but I would have had Caleb in there instead of Dame.
They kept switching them out, though. They kept switching Caleb in on offense to bring the ball in, and then they would switch him. I'm sorry, on defense, and then switching him out to put in Dominic. And I think also what I saw, at least from my vantage point, because I was kind of above the Duke bench, Dame was one of the last subs in. I think it was because Terrace Reed checked into the game, and they said, okay, we can't have Pat inbound the ball. We need to have somebody who's sort of tall to be able to run around and maybe get past, because they probably thought that Terrace Reed was going to be the guy on the inbounds pass. And so it was interesting how that came about. But yeah, I mean, Terrace Reed ended up not being the guy that inbounded, or that guarded the inbounding ball.
But my point about Dame was, so when Cam gets the ball and they come in double Cam, and they may have even been trying to foul him, but we're trying to run more clock. Of course we are. That is what we're supposed to do. And he passed it back to Dame. I was like, oh my God, no. I love you, Dame, but I did not want Dame at the line with a 1-and-1 with under 10 seconds left to go. So when Dame then got it up to Caden, I was like, okay, that's the right play. But I was like, why is Dame in there? Honestly, I'll say it. Why is Pat in there? Pat has had free throw nightmares lately. What's Pat doing in the game? And I want to point out, by the way, that after the free throw is made, if you want a different lineup, if you're like, oh no, you know what? Now I want Caleb in the game. I would have put in Nick instead of Pat. I would have gone with Caleb, Caden, Isaiah, Nick, and Cameron as my 5. If I'm John Shire, and I get that maybe that's not the lineup you want out there if there's a rebound of a free throw miss. But once the free throw goes through, I think you can call timeout there, or you can have guys at the scorer's table to come in, because honestly, you're not catching UConn off guard. Like, it's one thing if you are thinking, oh, we want to be able to get the ball inbounds quickly before they can set up their defense. Off a free throw, their defense is already set. UConn already knew what they were going to do. And Duke had plenty of timeouts. So I think John, again, either could have had guys at the scorer table or could have called a timeout. And by the way, a timeout you would have been able to say, okay, here's exactly what it is we want to do. Here's where we want to get the ball. I don't know why, but we didn't even try to get the ball to Isaiah. I mean, we're figuring, UConn's going to try to foul. Why not put the ball in Isaiah's hands? 88% free throw shooter. Up 2, send him to the line. I don't know. I'm just a little confused about the lineup that John rolled out there, and and exactly what we were trying to do on that final play. Because again, I think involving Dame in it is a little bit of a mistake, and not involving Isaiah in any way, it just doesn't make sense to me.
And again, it's there's also the option of Slim being in there, but Slim being where Cam is, or I'm sorry, where Caden is, right? Like right in the middle of the Pentagon, right? And he could have caught that ball, but also, like, again, Caden had multiple ideas. He could have passed it. He could have dribbled around a little bit to try and burn more clock. He could have thrown the ball up in the air as high as he could and hoped that it would come down with 0 seconds left. He could have pump faked and drawn a foul. Again, there are several things that he could have done. He chose this one. It ended up being the mistake, right? But I don't know that if you ask him to do it again, that he wouldn't do that again and it's successful, right? I think that's what a lot of people have to kind of encompass is 99. If he does that pass 100 times, it's not going to get tipped 100 times. It might get tipped once. It might get tipped 10 times. But like, it's still a good play. It's not something where like, what are you doing sort of thing. It was, unfortunately, UConn made a heads up play. They made the heads up play this time as opposed to our team. And with all that, you still needed the miracle to happen. And it did. It's unexplainable, and that's the stunning part of it. But there are so many things that came down to that point where we shouldn't have been in that position. So I'm not going to blame it on that final play, if that makes sense.
No, I hear you. I completely agree. All right, are we ready to get to our play of the game?
Yeah, let's get to it.
Go for it, buddy. What you got?
So mine actually is part of the last minute where Cam's bucket with 28 seconds left, because at that point, I thought, man, we've kind of withstood this punch, and we got the ball to our best guy. He made an acrobatic layup. Also, at least from my vantage point, I haven't seen a replay, but it looked like he got fouled on that play as well.
He did.
Yeah, I can even assume that because he was fouled on almost every play. It's like holding in football, but I think that play was indicative of like, okay, again, down the stretch, we gave it to our best guy, and our best guy just delivered. We have a 3-point lead, and at that moment, I was like, okay, let's just get a stop here, and we're good to go. And the rest of the game happened.
Yeah, that was also my play of the game, but I also wanted to shout out the block by Cameron Boozer on Terrace Reed in the first half, where he was a volleyball spike.
Yep.
One of the most vicious blocks you'll see Cam ever have. And I don't want to say that exactly keyed it, but that was like one of the first plays in a 14-0 Duke run where we just absolutely ran away from them. UConn could do nothing right and Duke could do nothing wrong. And I think that play, it came at a moment. Reed had been scoring at will on Duke. And Reed was going on, I think it was Pat. He was going against Pat in that moment. And Cam sort of decided, he was like, you know what? I'm just not going to allow this to happen anymore.
Right.
I love that play. And what I really hoped, Caden came down, and Caden, they didn't call a foul. I thought Caden got fouled, but they knocked the ball out of bounds off of him or something like that. But I was like, as soon as Cam had that block, I was like, if we convert anything, even get some free throws, it's the play of the game, because it's an end to end. And then when we didn't, I was like, you know what? I still think it's the play of the game.
Yeah, I thought it was too. Yeah.
All right, Don, who's your player of the week?
I think if you go between the two games, it's got to be Cameron Boozer. The what he did against St. John's, what he did against UConn. There was something to be said about the legend that was Caleb Foster and him willing us to victory against St. John's. But I think across the two of the week, it's Cam.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Out of that St. John's game, it could have, for sure could have been
Cam,
Slim, Isaiah Evans.
Yeah.
Couldn't spit out his name. I was thinking, maybe Isaiah is going to get it this week. And Caleb is another excellent choice. But yeah, when you look at the week in totality, the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games, 49 points from Cam. Come on. What are we talking? 49 points and, 18 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 block shots. It is a crime. It's a crime that his career had to end this way, because dude was absolute legend. Maybe the greatest statistical season we've ever seen from a Duke player. I don't say that lightly. I don't say that with hyperbole. I am very aware of some of the truly, truly great seasons we've. What are the other seasons that would compare? Maybe JJ Redick's senior year, where he averaged like almost 28 points per game. I think that's probably up there. There are a few others, but this was real, truly one for the books. And I'm bummed that it had to end this way. But man, he played his ass off in his final game for sure.
As we wrap up, Jason, I did want to go back. You mentioned the Duke women also losing in the Elite Eight to UCLA, but I want to commend them on what a hell of a turnaround for a season. They finished 27-9, and I think since December 4th, they only lost 3 games. And they were, if you think about the run they had through the ACC, where they won like their first 15 games, they won the ACC regular season, they won the ACC tournament for the second year in a row. They then get to the Elite Eight, in part by having a revenge tour. They beat Baylor in the round of 32, who was a team they lost to in the very first game of the season in Paris. They then beat LSU. We talked about the last-second three-pointer from Ashley Jackson that's also going to live in like legendary lore. Friday was one of the great days in Duke basketball history for both men and women. And they were up. They were giving UCLA, who, as we mentioned, is UConn is number 1, UCLA is 1A in the country. And they were giving UCLA, who beat them by 30 earlier this year, a run for their money. They were up 10 at one point in the second quarter. They were up 8 at the half, and it was just too much Lauren Betts. It was too much size inside for them to overcome. And when UCLA kind of came back, they eventually won 70-58. But this was the barometer, right? And I think now there's going to be some changes with the roster. We obviously were also missing like 5 players that were out for the year.
I know. Half the team was injured.
Half the team is injured coming back. They have a great recruiting class coming in next year, and they have some key players coming back. But I think also the mindset that Kara Lawson and her team is going to try and do is, how do we overcome the elite teams? How do we beat the elite teams? Because that's the only thing standing between them and a date in the Final Four. 2 years in a row, they beat the 1 or 1A team in the country, and they give them a run for their money only to come up short. I know that part stings as well, but I just want to say hats off to them for a great season. It was fun to watch them. They had some games where they were blasting people. If you know me, I love blowouts, Jason, and they were giving us a ton of them. And they, again, took some teams to the upper limit and dug deep to try and pull some wins out. They blazed through the ACC, and we're just within an earshot of the Final Four once again. They will be back. They're already lining up a loaded schedule. We're getting UConn next year, and so again, it's those barometer tests that we need to start overcoming for this team to take it to that very next level and book their flight to Columbus next year for the Final Four. Jason, the men would be in Detroit for the Final Four, so I would love to go home and then also have to just drive 3.5 hours back and forth to watch both the men and women next year in the Final Four. That is what we can hang hope on, at least for tonight.
Yeah. I need to remind folks, the women at one point were 3-6. They had lost to South Florida, and then they won 17 in a row. My goodness. Yeah. They had a hell of a season. It just ended. If only that game could have ended, UCLA could have ended at halftime. That would have been beautiful.
Right.
Same with the men's game. All right, that's going to wrap it up here for us on the latest edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Don't worry, we will be back. We're not gone. We hope you'll keep listening. I know there are a lot of you who sort of like tune us out a little bit in the offseason. Why are you doing that? We got great content for you. We're going to be recapping the season completely with the stats game. Sam Klein, the living legend who hasn't been on in a while. Sam Klein will be back with us in a little bit. We'll bring Scott Rich on as well to mock his picks, mock everything that we all did right and wrong and all that other kind of stuff. And obviously the other thing that's going on is, guys have decisions to make, and we'll be here to talk about what we're hearing, talk about what happens, what it means for the Duke program, and where Duke goes to fill in gaps, because I do not believe for a moment that the full roster for next season is decided at this point. I think there'll be other things added once we know what other things are subtracted. We will have all that for you in the coming days. Until then, keep on writing to us. dbrpodcast@gmail.com. We love you, folks. He's Donald. I'm Jason. It's been an amazing, amazing year, even if it ended with unbelievable pain. This is the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home.